Morning, Steve Freed in Chicago. Well, it's Monday morning, and hope everybody had a good weekend. I think we're starting out beans a little bit better than nearby. Corn unchanged, a little bit lower. Wheat unchanged to maybe a little bit higher. As far as the fundamentals are concerned, the market, we thought we were going to start open lower overnight because of the weak close on Friday and the weak technical performance that we had last week. But there is some talk that if the USDA doesn't raise the soybean crop dramatically, given the strong front-loaded demand, that actually the bean market might bounce a little bit off of last week's support. And so we'll be kind of watching to see if there's a bounce into this report on Friday. In the corn market, we're kind of stuck between the fundamentals of a big crop versus maybe there's not a lot of corn moving into the pipeline. We did have a little bit of rain late last week that slowed harvest down, and we are going to have a rain event midweek that could slow harvest down. But in general, prices feel to be low enough that the farmer's not selling enough to fill the pipeline, and that might offer some support underneath the market. Still, there's a talk about a big crop, and that big crop overhangs the price of corn. Over in the wheat, we saw Saudi Arabia bought some world hard red runner wheat. Egypt might be in this week for a tender of wheat. If they can get the letter of credits, that could help the wheat market. Certainly, there's a lot of numbers out there. The average guess for the U.S. corn crop that we're coming on is about a 14,029 million bushel crop. Range as a guess is 13,774 to 14,330. That's a pretty big range. The higher end of the range would be sharply lower. Obviously, the lower end of the range would be higher. Average guess for the soybean crop is 3215. The government was 3149. Range 3123 to 3298. So that's, again, for a November report, that's a pretty big range. We also have to remember we didn't have an October report. USDA says they lost some October data. They may have lost some fields to estimate November numbers because the harvest is already that far along. So, it's kind of up in the air what the government's going to say Friday morning. So that's going to be a pretty volatile day. After all the dust settles, the market still thinks that nearby beans can on the deferred. The corn market could drift lower, and the wheat market could have two-sided trade depending upon what happens to Argentine export policy and what happens to our export demand. 2014 crops are off to a good start. South America looks good. Our winter wheat crops look good, and so those could offer resistance prices down the road. So a big report on Friday, and we'll see what the government has to say. As always, these are my thoughts, not those of ADM or ADM Investor Services. And have a safe and profitable trading day.
She was at the football game last night. UVA. I know. I've been short for a